Discover how a little girl's heartwarming question changed a lonely millionaire's life forever. In a grand mansion on the outskirts of Chicago, Thomas sat alone at his long marble dining table, where the clinking of silverware and the aroma of food couldn't disguise the deafening silence. Once a scrappy kid from a modest home, he had clawed his way up the corporate ladder, transforming his life with sheer grit. He had it all: a sprawling estate, flashy cars, and the kind of wealth many only dreamt about. But now those dreams felt hollow, an echo of his former self. Encased in luxury yet drowning in loneliness, it was as if Thomas had traded warmth for wealth. Determined to change his fate, he ventured into the community center one bright Saturday morning, vibrant laughter and the bustling energy of kids filling the air around him. Thomas felt like an intruder in this world of unencumbered joy. How foreign it seemed compared to his cold marble floors and empty rooms. That's when he met Emma, an 8-year-old with twinkling eyes and a smile that could light up even the darkest corners of the universe. She was a whirlwind of laughter and spirit, the kind of presence that could melt even the iciest of hearts. As he watched her color wildly and chase after a balloon with unexplainable enthusiasm, it struck him, a pang of joy forming in his chest. Then, with a tilt of her head and the innocence only a child could muster, Emma asked, "Why are you always alone?" Those 6 words pierced through his well-guarded facade faster than a bullet. It was a simple, innocent question, yet it burrowed deep into his soul. The laughter around him faded, replaced by the stinging clarity of truth. He didn't know how to answer. Days turned into weeks, and Thomas began visiting the center regularly, drawn by Emma's infectious spirit. He learned about her family. Her father had recently lost his job, grappling with the realities of unpaid bills while trying to keep his family afloat. Emma, blissfully unaware of the weight on her parents' shoulders, filled the room with stories of joy and wonder, showing Thomas what he had been missing. With each interaction, his isolation unraveled just a bit more, revealing a vulnerability he thought long buried. But the light didn't last. Darkness crept in when Thomas discovered Emma's father still struggled to find work, the harsh reality knocking at their door like an unwelcome guest. Thomas grappled with the weight of his own choices as he watched the turmoil unfold before him. He had to do something. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In a rush of determination mixed with fear, Thomas decided to organize a fundraiser, not just for Emma's family, but for the community center. He envisioned a lively gathering where laughter filled the air and connections blossomed. He could almost see it, the bittersweet juxtaposition of joy against the backdrop of loss. Yet just as the excitement began to swell, a scandal erupted in his business, shaking the very foundation of everything he had built. Now Thomas stood at a critical crossroads, to protect his fading empire or to embrace the raw, beautiful friendships he had formed, especially with Emma. Could he step away from the glittering facade he had built to help a girl whose smile had reignited his spirit? As urgency enveloped his heart, he felt that tugging question, echoing louder than ever. What did it mean to truly be rich? With everything at stake, the moment felt heavier than ever, a test not only of character but of what it meant to find purpose. Thomas felt the weight of his choices pressing down like a dark cloud. The fundraiser pulsed in his mind, a beacon of hope peeking through the chaos of his life. The vision of families coming together, laughter spilling out into the streets, and Emma's bright smile shimmering in the midst of it all kept drawing him in. He could tear down the walls he'd built, trade in his carefully curated world of solitude for something real. Yet as he sat in his mansion, those same walls seemed to close in on him tighter than ever. Despite the scandal swirling around his business, Thomas found himself reaching out to Emma's father, Mark. They met in the cozy back corner of the community center, where the laughter of children softened the edges of their worries. Mark was a good man, and the agony of searching for work hung on him like a well-worn coat. Still, he greeted Thomas with a warm smile, one that felt like sunshine breaking through a clouded sky. "Things are tough," Mark admitted, running a hand through his hair. "But Emma keeps us going. She has this way of making everything feel okay, you know." Thomas nodded. He understood that spark of life that Emma brought, the way she infused the mundane with joy. "I want to help," he said, feeling his resolve strengthen. "I'm hosting a fundraiser for the center, for families like yours." Mark's expression shifted, a flicker of hope illuminating his face. "That's generous of you, Thomas, really. But it's not just about the money, it's about lifting spirits. What are your thoughts?" With each idea exchanged, the spark grew into a flame. They planned activities, games, food stands, even an art corner for the kids. Thomas felt a pulse of excitement battling the heaviness in his heart. He could change lives, even if just a little. And with that realization came an unexpected wave of warmth, something he hadn't felt in years. It ignited a longing to be a part of something bigger than himself. As the day of the fundraiser approached, he poured everything into organizing the event. He rallied his connections and flooded social media with invites. Yet, that day was also overshadowed by a fresh scandal at his company. The headlines blared about potential financial ruin, casting shadows over his plans. Critics were circling, ready to pounce. He stood on the sidewalk of the community center, watching families arrive. Children ran past him, giggling and outstretched arms aiming for balloons. This joyful chaos contrasted sharply with the turmoil twisting inside him. What if this fundraiser flopped? What if his business decisions led to humiliation, swallowing the last remnant of his dignity? But then he caught sight of Emma, eyes sparkling as she darted from petting zoos to art corners. She froze when she saw him, her enthusiasm bubbling over as she ran his way. "Mr. Thomas, you came." Her enthusiasm was infectious, wrapping around him like a warm embrace. "Of course I wouldn't miss it for the world," he replied, kneeling to meet her gaze. She was the antidote to his fears, the reminder of what truly mattered. In that moment, he realized that if he could give even a sliver of happiness to Emma and her family, the sacrifices he was making were worth it. Gathering himself, he felt ready to face the storm. The fundraiser might symbolize a shift for him, a chance to redefine wealth and purpose. But as he stood up, camera flashes captured him from a distance. Was the media already here for more than just the event? What would happen when they pieced together his involvement, both in charity and scandal? The rumble of unease loomed large, and he could feel it pulling him back into the shadows. As laughter and joy surrounded him, Thomas realized he stood on a precipice. Could he truly embrace this new path forward, even if it meant risking everything? The answer haunted him as voices soared and the fundraiser kicked off. What challenges lay ahead as he forged this unprecedented connection with Emma's family and the community? With uncertainty swirling around him, one question remained. Could he find strength within his vulnerability? The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden sheen over the community center, as laughter danced around Thomas like a sweet melody. Families gathered, their mingling voices creating a symphony of joy that began to soften the sharp edges of his worries. He watched as children darted from one booth to another, their faces painted in vivid colors of laughter and excitement. But amidst the festivities, his heart raced. Each camera flash felt like a spotlight, pushing him deeper into the shadows of his past mistakes. Guilt washed over him. He had put so much on the line for this day, hoping to do good. Yet doubts clawed at him, threatening to derail his intentions. Would the press latch onto his failures, casting him as a villain when all he wanted was redemption? "Mr. Thomas, over here." Emma's voice broke through his spiraling thoughts. He turned to see her waving from the art corner, paint smeared across her cheeks, eyes sparkling with uncontained joy. She held up a colorful painting she had been working on, a chaotic mix of hues blending into a scene that was uniquely hers. "That's amazing, Emma, you're quite the artist," he exclaimed, moving toward her. Her pride radiated off her like sunlight. "Thanks, I painted it for the fundraiser. It's for you," she beamed, enthusiasm spilling like confetti. "For me?" He slightly chuckled, touched. You shouldn't put all that pressure on yourself, kiddo. Emma's chin jutted forward, defiant. But it's special, just like you trying to help everyone. Her innocent words struck him deep. Here was this little girl facing challenges of her own, pouring love into her art, just to reflect how she saw him. Not a billionaire in turmoil, but a man trying to make a difference. Your spirit is special, Emma, he said, crouching to her level. Thank you for this, it means the world to me. He felt a swell of gratitude wash over him. It was that moment of clarity he had sought. Maybe his past didn't have to dictate his future. As the afternoon unfurled, more families joined in the festivities. Food trucks lined the side streets, laughter bubbled up, and excitement filled the air. He spotted Mark chatting with other parents, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. It was clear to Thomas that the fundraiser wasn't just a charity event, it was becoming a pillar of the community. Yet through the sea of joy a loudspeaker blared, catching everyone's attention. A local reporter, microphone in hand, stepped forward, eyes narrowing on Thomas. We've heard some concerning allegations surrounding Thomas Stevenson's business dealings. How can you justify your presence here while your company faces serious allegations? The crowd's energy shifted. Conversations hushed and eyes turned to Thomas. His heart thumped loudly in his chest as he faced the bewildered looks from the families he had hoped to uplift. Just when he felt the ground shifting beneath him, Emma tugged at his sleeve, worry etching her small features. "Mr. Thomas, are you okay?" she asked, her voice small yet firm. In that moment he realized he was not just fighting for himself anymore. There were lives intertwined with his choices, people who believed in what he could do despite his past. He knelt down, meeting her gaze. "I'm okay, Emma. Really. Just... sometimes you have to face what scares you." With a deep breath, he stood tall. "Let's keep the party going," he called out, a hint of determination coloring his voice. Around him cheers erupted, igniting a flame of defiance in his heart. Everybody began to return to the fun, the scandal momentarily forgotten. You could feel the energy pulsing back into the vibrant atmosphere. He had a choice, to let fear consume him or to let this moment galvanize him. As the laughter crescendoed and children continued to paint joy across the canvas of the day, Thomas faced the looming question. Could he navigate through this storm and emerge not just as a businessman, but as the man he hoped to be for this community? He felt the weight of that question settle over him, heavy yet strangely liberating. But in a heartbeat, he understood there was still strength in vulnerability. In the eyes of that little girl, he could see the potential for change. And as the fundraiser continued, another thought flickered to life. What if this wasn't the end of the road? What if it was merely the beginning? Thomas glanced around, soaking in the renewed laughter and excitement. Children ran by, sticky fingers clutching cotton candy, while parents chatted animatedly, their anxiety momentarily forgotten. Yet, his heart still raced beneath the surface of the festivity. "Mr. Thomas!" The voice of a familiar elder cut through the ambiance. It was Mrs. Baker, the local baker known for her warm apple pies. Her weathered hands held a plate of mini pies, warm and enticing. "You must try these. I made extra today just for you." "Thank you, Mrs. Baker," he replied, forcing a smile despite the storm brewing in his chest. He took a pie and bit into it. The warmth was inviting, the sweetness momentarily distracting. But with every bite, the swirling doubts returned. What would it take for him to break free from the chains of his past? As if sensing his turmoil, Emma reappeared, a burst of energy in her colorful dress. "Mr. Thomas, you have to see my friend's painting. It's the best." She grasped his hand. He followed her to a vibrant art table. A group of children clustered around a canvas, splattering colors with the fearless abandon only youth could muster. Their laughter drew in a handful of parents, each beaming with pride. "Art is hope, Mr. Thomas," Emma stated emphatically, eyes wide. It was a simple sentence, yet it resonated somewhere deep within him. He could see it reflected in their artwork. Each stroke was a push against their reality, a step towards something bright. But just as he was captivated by their innocence, a voice boomed overhead again. The reporter stood at the edge, seeking another opportunity to strike. Mr. Thomas, you avoided the question. How do you plan to address the allegations without turning this community event into a platform for your defense? Ada, a mother of 3, stepped in front of Thomas, her voice fierce. Let him be. He's here trying to help us, not hurt us. The crowd murmured, caught between supporting their neighbor and rising tension. Thomas felt the eyes of the community on him again. Every glance was a reminder of the weight he carried. Thank you, Ada, he said, trying to steady his voice. He drew a deep breath, searching for composure. I cannot change my past nor the mistakes I've made, but I can work to support this community and ensure that the future we build is better. As he spoke, something shifted within him, an ember of determination glowing brighter. Maybe he didn't need to be perfect. In being real, facing fears and making amends, there could be honesty and connection. Emma, standing beside him, nodded in agreement, as if she believed every word. Yes, you believe in us and we believe in you. Slowly, the crowd began to murmur in agreement, their voices weaving together a tapestry of support. The storm outside calmed. They were not here only for his failures. They were here for the hope he represented. As the day wore on, Thomas felt lighter somehow. He joined the children at the art table, picking up brushes and splashing colors. A wave of joy erupted around him. Each stroke on the canvas became a representation of resilience. But soon the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows. The event would come to a close, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a beginning for him or their community. It felt bigger. Then he felt a tug on his sleeve again. Emma stood there, innocence radiating from her. Mr. Thomas, can we paint together again tomorrow? She asked. Of course. We'll create something amazing. Her smile cheered him like a beacon. But as darkness descended, doubt crept back in. What if this support faded with the last light of the day? And then the question emerged, sharp and clear. How far could a little girl's faith stretch against the weight of his past? He found it harder to breathe. Tomorrow loomed large, a blank canvas waiting to be filled. Would he be brave enough to face it? With the laughter still echoing in his ears, he felt the weight of hope intertwine with uncertainty. Could tomorrow truly change everything? The next morning, Thomas awoke with the sun streaming through his window. He rubbed his eyes, still feeling the whisper of yesterday's joy mixed with lingering doubt. The laughter from the event played on a loop in his mind, teasing him with the possibility of something brighter. Could he really let go of the past? Was he worthy of this support and the hope Emma had offered? He stumbled into the kitchen, the aroma of coffee brewing pulling him from his thoughts. His phone buzzed suddenly, startling him, pulling him back into reality. A message from Ada popped up. We're excited to paint today. Everyone's eager to see you. A smile crept across his face, but it was quickly followed by a tightening in his chest. What if they didn't want to be around him once the novelty wore off? After a hurried breakfast, he made his way to the community center. The day was bright, unmarred by clouds, as if the world was urging him to believe today would be special. As he approached, he could hear the familiar sounds of laughter and chatter encircling the building. Emma rushed over the moment he arrived, her hair bouncing with each step. Mr. Thomas, you came. I was worried you might not. I wouldn't miss it for the world, he replied, his heart swelling at her enthusiasm. They headed straight to the art table, where a rainbow of colors awaited. Children raced past with paint splattered on their clothes, and it all felt so alive. Can I show you the painting from yesterday? Emma asked, excitement lighting her face. Absolutely, he said, fully embracing the moment. As they approached the canvas, its vibrant colors popped against the bright blue backdrop, a celebration of youth and imagination. He admired the messy beauty, where every handprint and splash told a story of their joy. See, this is us, Emma pointed out, her finger dancing across the canvas. Thomas looked closely and something inside him stirred. Their innocence spoke of an unfiltered world, so different from the heavy load of expectation he bore. Art really is hope, isn't it? He murmured, a tear pooling in his eye. Emma nodded with conviction. And you're part of our hope too, Mr. Thomas. Caught in that moment, everyone around them quieted. Thomas felt their eyes on him again, this time not judging or heavy with expectations, but filled with trust and a spark of something new. He drew a breath, letting the warmth of that acceptance wash over him. "What if this time we made something together?" he suggested, looking at the kids around him. Cheers erupted, and they eagerly grabbed brushes, ready to dive into another creation. As they painted, laughter echoed through the air. He felt himself relaxing, mixing colors, blending ideas. There was a rhythmic flow to the paintbrush gliding across the canvas, a dance that felt both foreign and familiar. "Mr. Thomas, look," one of the kids called, and he turned to see Emma pass him a bright yellow paint. "This will make our painting shine." With laughter bubbling up inside him, he saw what she meant. The yellow, so vibrant, would brighten their masterpiece. Maybe it was time he added a little color to his own life too. Just as they stepped back to admire their work, the reporter from the previous event appeared, camera in hand. Anxiety swept through Thomas for a split second, but he caught Emma's reassuring smile, and the other children rallied around him. "Mr. Thomas, can you tell us what this painting means?" the reporter asked, voice smooth but tinged with the same sharpness he'd felt before. He hesitated, hearing the whispers of doubt again. But as he looked at the kids surrounding him, the hope and pure joy radiating from their faces, he felt a new courage swell within him. "It means we're not defined by our pasts," he began, his voice steady. "Art is about creating something beautiful, no matter what we came from. It shines a light on hope, growth, and resilience." His words hung in the air, and silence settled for a moment, as if the community itself was absorbing this truth. But just as he felt the warmth of their support, a part of him craved more. What awaited on the horizon? Would the support be enough to push through the shadows of his past? With that faint sense of unease nagging at him, he realized today was just the beginning. The sun shone bright, but darkness had not disappeared completely. One question remained: could he truly embrace the hope these children had given him? As those thoughts raced through his mind, he noticed Emma looking up at him, full of potential. "Tomorrow can we paint a rainbow?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. "Let's make it the biggest rainbow ever," he replied, determination igniting within him. Tomorrow was another canvas waiting for life, but the shadows still loomed. Would he have the strength to fill it with colors of his own making? The next day dawned bright and clear, just like the day before. Thomas woke up feeling a blend of excitement and nerves. Today would be more than just painting. Today had the promise of connection, a translation of those swirling colors into meaningful interactions. He quickly got dressed, making sure the paint-stained shirt he had chosen was clean enough to wear in front of the kids. After a quick breakfast, he grabbed his supplies and headed out, his heart thumping with anticipation. As he approached the community center, the sounds of laughter greeted him, and the sight of children running amok ignited a spark of joy in his chest. He spotted Emma right away, her exuberance evident even from a distance. "Mr. Thomas, look what we brought," she shouted as she ran towards him. In her arms was a gigantic poster board with sketches scribbled all over it. "We want to plan the rainbow." Thomas knelt down to meet her eye level. "That looks amazing, Emma. Tell me about your ideas." "Okay," she beamed, spreading the board out on the grass as if it were some sacred treasure. "We can have red for love, orange for friendship, yellow for happiness, green for nature, blue for dreams, indigo for our imagination, and violet for, music?" "Perfect," he replied, grinning. He could hardly contain his delight. There in her innocent enthusiasm, he felt the flicker of hope start to grow brighter. As the children gathered around, Thomas found himself enveloped in their excitement. They chatted away, each taking turns to explain what colors meant to them. It was as if their pure imagination and unfettered joy were igniting a fire within him he hadn't even known he'd buried beneath years of cynicism. "Mr. Thomas, can we create messages for each color?" one of the kids asked, a hint of curiosity sparkling in his eyes. "Yes, that's such a great idea. What messages do you want to share?" They brainstormed for hours, a collage of laughter and creativity swirling around them. Thomas felt lighter with every brush stroke, the shadows of his past slowly retreating under the warmth of this bright gathering. "Do you think we should add a big sun above the rainbow?" Emma suggested as they began to paint, her brush dancing with enthusiasm. "Absolutely. A sun represents hope, doesn't it?" he said, realizing the connection to his own journey. The children nodded enthusiastically, and together they painted the sun, bold, bright, and full of promise. But as they mixed their colors and shared their stories, Thomas's heart suddenly grew heavy again. The laughter echoed around him, yet in the back of his mind lurked the truth that he couldn't escape. They might see him as a mentor now, but what would happen when the adventure of painting faded? What if they realized he wasn't the person they believed he was? What if the end of this experience shattered the fragile bond they had started to build? Just then, Emma looked up and asked, "Mr. Thomas, do you ever dream?" His breath caught in his throat. The little girl's question struck him deep, pulling from the very essence of his hidden fears. "Dream?" he echoed, lost in thought. "I suppose I do, but then let's dream together," she smiled, her eyes sparkling. "Your dream can be our dream too." In that moment, he felt a choice hanging in the air. Would he risk believing? Could he allow a little girl and her colorful world to guide him toward realizing his dreams? The laughter around them continued, but Thomas's mind raced with possibilities. Tomorrow loomed like an unfinished canvas, filled with uncertainty. What dreams might they paint together? And more importantly, would he be brave enough to dream big enough for both of them? As the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over their masterpiece, a flicker of determination ignited within him. Whatever lay ahead, he knew he couldn't turn back now. With the weight of expectation still lingering, the question buzzed in his mind. How would he step into this new journey without fear? And could embracing these dreams change everything forever? The next day arrived with a crispness in the air that filled Thomas with an invigorating energy, like the brush of a new canvas, waiting for vibrant colors to dance upon it. He woke up early, unable to shake the memory of Emma's innocent question. What dreams did he have? Until now, it felt like dreams had been buried under layers of duty and disappointment. With fresh resolve, he brushed his teeth and caught a glimpse of his reflection. There was a hint of excitement flickering in his tired eyes, a spark he hadn't noticed in ages. "Today's the day," he muttered to himself, pouring coffee with practiced care. As he chugged the warm brew, he allowed his thoughts to wander. What if they painted a mural that told a story, the story of the community? What if it turned from just another project into a beacon of hope, something the children could claim as their own? Arriving at the community center, he was greeted by a chorus of joyful chaos. Kids weaved around him, racing towards the grass where their rainbow began to bloom. Emma was there first, perched like a sprite on a stool, waiting for him to arrive. "Mr. Thomas, are we going to dream today?" Her eyes shimmered with expectation, pulling at the threads of his guarded heart. "Absolutely," he replied, kneeling beside her, his excitement mingling with the flickering doubts within. "How do we want to start dreaming?" As they gathered around, Thomas felt the unshakable bond forming between them, a bridge crafted not just from paint and paper, but from shared ambition and hope. The children began to chatter enthusiastically about drawings and colors, each suggestion more vivid than the last. With every idea, Thomas felt the weight on his chest lift further, their energy becoming a buoyant force that effortlessly drew him in. "Let's paint something that reminds us of each other," Emma suggested, her cheeks flushed with enthusiasm. "Like, we can include all of us." As they brainstormed, a memory flickered in Thomas's mind, his own childhood, filled with hopes and dreams that had slowly faded as reality crept in. All those moments spent in isolation, the colors of his world dulled by the expectations of adulthood. But here, surrounded by children who viewed the world with wonder, his heart began to expand. They decided on a giant mural that would encapsulate their community's spirit, a sun bursting with joy, a rainbow filled with dreams, and faces of all the children painted in vibrant hues. They would each contribute something, an emblematic burst of creativity and connection, a record of their unity. As Thomas painted alongside them, he witnessed their laughter and felt their spirits intertwine with every stroke, drenching the canvas not only in paint, but also in hope. He realized that his fears of being found out were retreating, overwhelmed by the children's honesty and authenticity. But just as the sun blazed overhead, casting a warm glow over their vibrant work, Thomas's courage began to waver again. The thought clawed at him, threatening to ruin the moment. What if he failed to deliver? What if by risking his heart, he inadvertently shattered theirs? "Mr. Thomas," Emma's voice rang out, pulling him from his thoughts. "What if we added a big heart in the middle? A heart that symbolizes our connections. A heart." Thomas felt something shift inside him. Yes, a heart can bring it all together. He took a deep breath and began painting, envisioning how all love, dreams, and hopes would collide within this single symbol, binding everything they had created. And as he stepped back to admire their work, a profound truth dawned on him. In this pursuit of connection, he had stumbled onto something rare. He was no longer just a mentor, he was part of a bigger picture, a thread woven into the fabric of this community's story. The sun descended, casting shadows that danced along the freshly painted mural. As butterflies fluttered around them, and the laughter faded into a soft hum, Thomas realized he was at a crossroads. Could he genuinely allow this new world, a tapestry of dreams, to claim him? The question loomed larger as Emma turned to him, her eyes sparkling again. "Mr. Thomas, do you really want to dream big with us?" At that moment, he understood that saying yes could be the ticket to a life transformed. But could he embrace the risk? And more importantly, could he open his heart wide enough to let the little girl's dream change everything? The next morning dawned, brighter and warmer than the last. Thomas woke up with a restless energy bubbling inside him. He could still hear Emma's voice echoing in his mind, the way she asked if he truly wanted to dream big. Her simple question held so much weight. It felt like a key, unlocking parts of his soul he thought had been locked away forever. He made himself a cup of coffee, the rich, comforting aroma filling the kitchen. Instead of letting the worries of yesterday creep back in, he focused on a single thought. Today was about embracing possibilities. He quickly gathered his art supplies, feeling a sense of eagerness for the mural project. This was about more than just paint and canvas. It was about building something meaningful. When he arrived at the community center, he was greeted again by the delightful chaos of children. Laughter echoed against the walls, spilled into the hallways, and intertwined with the smell of fresh paint. Emma spotted him first, her eyes lighting up. "Mr. Thomas, we can't wait to keep dreaming," she exclaimed, bouncing on her toes. The sight filled him with warmth. Her enthusiasm was contagious. The other kids gathered around, ready to dive back into their vibrant adventure. He felt a sense of purpose settle in. This was where he belonged. "All right, everyone, let's add some magic to our mural today," Thomas said, his voice steady with newfound assurance. As they began to work, he noticed how each child had transformed since the project started. They weren't just kids with crayons, they were visionaries, bubbling with ideas and dripping with passion. He guided them as they pressed the brush against the canvas, every stroke becoming a declaration of belonging and unity. "Let's add something special today," one boy shouted, his face smeared with paint. "How about a balloon? Everyone loves balloons." "Thoughts like a balloon," Emma mused. "They can float away or they can pop." The remark struck Thomas as more profound than it seemed. It resonated with fears he harbored tightly in his chest. What if his dreams floated too far away? What if they popped in front of the kids? The morning air felt electric, crackling with creativity, yet his heart ached with uncertainty. "An important part of a balloon is the air inside," Thomas said, speaking it before he fully recognized the intended wisdom. "It holds it up. Dreams need air to soar." As he spoke, children paused and looked at him, their little faces painted with thought. At that moment he realized he was indeed breathing out lessons, but they were just as much for him as they were for them. They spent hours brainstorming, creating not just art but a collaborative tale of hope. Each color on the mural represented a shared heartbeat, connecting their dreams in a tapestry of laughter and light. And even though Thomas felt fears clawing at him from deep within, he knew something had shifted. At lunchtime, while resting on the grass, he caught Emma quietly gazing at the mural. "Mr. Thomas," she said softly, "do you think dreams come true?" He paused. A knot formed in his stomach, a familiar yet unwelcome feeling. Every part of him screamed to shield her with a safe, "Of course," but the truth made his voice tremble. "I think dreams can come true if we believe in them, and work hard to keep them alive." Her eyes pierced him with innocent curiosity. "But what if we're scared?" "Then we can be scared together," he replied, feeling the strength of their shared bond with each word. When they returned to the mural after lunch, the sunlight kissed their project, illuminating the heart in the center, where each child had left a fingerprint. The colors shimmered, radiant as their laughter floated through the air. For the first time, Thomas considered how his fears, instead of isolating him, might bring them closer together. As the day grew long and shadows stretched, Thomas stood back to survey their work again. He realized that he was standing on the edge of something new. Each moment spent with these kids painted his world in brighter strokes. But what would happen when the mural was completed? Would friendships fade? Would the magic slip away, leaving him in solitude once more? Emma interrupted his spiraling thoughts, her voice filled with excitement. "Mr. Thomas, let's plan a celebration for when it's finished, a big party." The idea lit a fire in him, but the deep-rooted fear flickered too. Could he really expose his heart to this new family he had found? And if he did, would it stand the test of time? As they began cleaning up for the day, a newfound tremor tingled in the air, swirling with possibility. He knew it was time to confront his demons. The question loomed over him, bigger than all their dreams. What happened next could change everything. The following day brought with it a curtain of uncertainty. As Thomas splashed cold water on his face, he caught a glimpse of himself in the mirror. What stared back was a man on the brink of something life-changing yet deeply frightening. The anticipation of the mural celebration mixed with the shadows of doubt swirling in his mind. He arrived at the community center with a nervous knot in his stomach. The kids were already buzzing with excitement, their giggles ringing out like music as they gathered around their masterpiece. Emma, as always, was the bright spark in the crowd. She ran toward him, her eyes wide. "Mr. Thomas, did you see we added the stars last night?" Her enthusiasm was like a balm, soothing his anxieties, if only for a moment. He bent down to look at their work closely. The vibrant blue sky danced with multicolored stars that seemed to glow against the canvas. "Wow, this is incredible," he said, truly impressed. The mural was more than just paint. It felt alive, wrapping them in the warmth of collective creativity. But the weight of the upcoming celebration sat heavily on him. How could he share this piece of himself with them? The safety of this little family felt precious, and he didn't want to sully it with his fears. "Hey everyone," he called, trying to inject some confidence into his voice. "How about we start planning for our party? We need decorations and snacks." "Can we have balloons?" someone shouted. Thomas chuckled. It seemed balloons were the theme of the week. "Absolutely. And let's make invitations too." The children began chatting excitedly among themselves, feasting on ideas while Thomas observed, his heart swelling. It reminded him of how a family worked together, how each person contributed to a bigger picture. Yet as he listened to their plans, anxiety tightened its grip again. What if they got used to having him there, only to find out he'd disappear as soon as their project ended? As if sensing his turmoil, Emma sidled up to him again. "Mr. Thomas, are you okay?" There was a concern in her voice, pure and genuine. His chest tightened, and he wanted to be brave for her. "Yeah, just thinking about the party." "Me too," she chirped, "but I'm glad we're doing this together. It makes it more special." Her words struck him deep. She was right. The collective effort, the shared fears, these were what would tether them. As the day unfolded, they began crafting colorful invitations made from construction paper. Watching the kids design them, he realized he was more than just an artist. He was becoming part of their family. Laughter poured out of their little corners as they competed to draw the funniest doodles and write silly messages. But there was still a shadow of doubt lingering. A part of him whispered that he was merely a temporary fixture in their lives. What if their interest waned once the mural was finished? By the end of the day, as the sun set and bathed the room in warm golds and pinks, they stacked the invitations together. It felt like a piece of their hearts had gone into each one. Emma tugged on his sleeve, drawing his attention. "Mr. Thomas, can you promise that you'll come to the party? Even if the mural is done, I mean it." Her eyes were wide and earnest, and for the first time, he truly felt the weight of her request. "I promise," he said, determination sweeping over him. "I'll be there." The sincerity in her gaze was like a thread binding him to this moment, to these children. But the deeper question lingered. What if the promise carried more gravitas than he intended? Later that night, as darkness blanketed the town, Thomas wrestled with his thoughts. Did he know how to stay when the story changed? How did one remain part of something beautiful when it felt so fragile? He didn't have the answers, yet he could feel the warmth of possibility around him. And just as he felt himself drifting towards sleep, another question resurfaced. What did it truly mean to belong? With his heart racing, he found himself eager to wake up again, to see Emma, and to discover more about the road ahead. What would tomorrow unveil? Would he finally step out from the shadow of his fears? The morning light spilled into Thomas's room, awakening him with a soft glow. Today was different. The anticipation of the mural celebration electrified the air around him. Today would be the culmination of everything he had built with those kids, their laughter, dreams, and hope crafted into a single vibrant artwork. A wave of realization washed over him. He had woven himself into their lives, and they were now part of his. As he drove to the community center, vivid memories from the previous days rushed through his mind. The sparkle in Emma's eyes, the camaraderie of laughter that filled the space, and the collective energy that surged as they painted. He felt a swell of gratitude. The fear of failure still pulsed beneath the surface, but there was also something new, a lightness, an understanding that vulnerability could come with strength. When he arrived, the center buzzed with excitement. Children scurried around, hanging colorful streamers and balloons. Emma spotted him and sprinted towards him. "Mr. Thomas, we're almost ready." "Looks amazing," he exclaimed, scanning the room. The mural, completed and colorful, sprawled across the wall, an explosion of emotion and creativity. It encapsulated their journey, a radiant sun, a bold rainbow, and the heart in the center, shared by all. As families began to gather, a sense of belonging enveloped him like a warm hug. Parents chatted, laughter punctuated the air, and children darted around, faces painted with sheer joy. Thomas could feel the spirit of community blooming beautifully. "Mr. Thomas," Emma tugged at his sleeve again, her face beaming. "Can we do the ceremony now? I want everyone to see our mural." "Absolutely. Let's gather everyone around," he said, his heart racing with pride. As they all circled around the mural, Thomas took a deep breath, the simultaneous pulse of excitement and trepidation coursing through him. He stepped forward, eyes scanning the sea of faces. "Thank you all for coming today. This mural represents not just art, but all the hope and dreams we've shared together." He glanced down at Emma, standing at his side, her enthusiasm radiating outwards. "Emma, would you like to say a few words?" Emma's confidence shone as she stepped to the forefront. "This mural tells our story. Each part shows who we are. It's about love, dreams, and hope. And thanks to Mr. Thomas, we can say our dreams matter." A swell of emotional warmth spread through Thomas. In that moment, he understood what he had been seeking. It wasn't just about the art. It was the connections formed along the way, connections where he had shared his fears, laughed, and ultimately found courage in vulnerability. Families erupted in applause, smiles lighting up the room. Thomas felt the shadows dissipate, fading into the background. Emma jumped up and down, her joy contagious. "Now, let's celebrate," Thomas called, ushering everyone into the festivities. Tables were filled with homemade snacks, laughter echoed all around, and the children danced as if the world was painted in joy. As the day progressed, Thomas found himself laughing and mingling with the families. He even joined in on some games. The love enveloping him felt surreal, as if he had stepped into a reality where dreams had no boundaries. Later in the evening, after everyone had enjoyed the celebration, Thomas found a quiet corner to take a breath. As he leaned against the wall, he felt Emma approach him. "Mr. Thomas, thank you for being here. You're part of our family now." In that moment it hit him. She meant it. They had built something extraordinary together. "And you've opened my eyes, Emma. I found a family, a community. I'll always be a part of this with you." He could have cried. The fears that once gripped his heart were now threads woven into a tapestry of joy and transformation. He had learned to embrace vulnerability, to dream again, and to find meaning where he had thought none existed. As the event came to an end and families began to leave, a sense of warmth enveloped him. He knew that though challenges still lay ahead, both for the community and his personal journey, he was no longer alone. With Emma by his side, pouring her heart into their shared dream, he understood that they would keep painting together, bold strokes of compassion and understanding, brightening each passage in life. This was the moment he had longed for. No more running from the past, but rather embracing it to foster a brighter future. Standing taller than ever as the last of the sunlight dipped below the horizon, Thomas felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. It was his newfound mission to nurture this connection, to help create a community where dreams could thrive and love could flourish. And from that day forward, he solemnly promised to show up, not just as Mr. Thomas, but as a friend, a mentor, a part of their collective painting of life. As Thomas walked out of the community center, he glanced back one last time, and amongst the laughter and joy he realized, dreams truly do come true when you dare to paint your heart onto the canvas of life. Now it's your turn to join this incredible community of heartfelt stories. You need to subscribe right now to ensure you won't miss the next exclusive tales that will inspire and uplift you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let others discover these journeys of transformation. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about today's profound ending. I want to hear from you. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait, not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel as we keep bringing you these beautiful stories.